Let me ask you something. It might feel a little too real right now.
Okay.
Do you ever just look at the news or scroll through your feed or even sit in a work meeting and get this feeling
What kind of feeling?
that you're slowly losing your grip on reality? That you're living in a, I don't know, a post-truth world where sanity just feels incredibly rare.
I think we all feel that. The ground feels like it's constantly shifting.
That we're not just dealing with different opinions anymore.
No, it's a breakdown in how we even process reality itself. And the stakes here, they aren't just about winning an argument online. This is about personal freedom, mental health even.
Because if you can't think clearly,
You can't be free. You just become a leaf in the wind, blown around by whoever's shouting the loudest.
that is exactly what we're tackling today. And before we get into it, I need to set the stage.
Right.
You are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's Notebook LM for deeper, more dynamic book analysis. We're using this technology to really pull the text apart.
And the book we're examining is a really fascinating one. It's called Being Logical, A Guide to Good Thinking by D.Q. McInerny.
McInerny. He isn't some new tech guru or a media pundit. He's a philosophy professor from Notre Dame.
And he published this back in 2004.
Which feels like a completely different world, doesn't it?
It does, but his goal was timeless. He wasn't writing for other academics. This was for the layperson. He called it a guide to good thinking.
I love that phrase, good thinking. It suggests thinking is a skill, something you can be bad at, like tennis.
And we all just assume we're experts because we have a brain.
Exactly.
McInerny's thesis is simple, but it's bold. He says logic is synonymous with sanity. It's the one essential tool for building a concise, reasoned argument. Without it, you're not just wrong, you're adrift.
So here's our plan for the analysis. We're not just summarizing. We'll map out his claims, use the Adlerian lens to see if this is just information or actual wisdom.
We're even going to test his ideas against the U.S. Constitution's preamble.
And then, of course, offer a balanced critique. So this will be a real workout for your brain.
Let's get started.
Okay, let's jump right into his first major claim. He says, and I'm quoting, "Clarity in language is pivotal to clarity in thought." Now, that sounds simple, almost too simple.
It sounds like something your English teacher would say, right? But it's the foundation for everything else in the book. McInerny argues you literally cannot reason logically if your ideas are vague.
So fuzzy words mean fuzzy thoughts.
You can't have a sharp thought wrapped in dull language. It's all about the match between the world out there and the words in your head.
He uses this great example from a business meeting. I think everyone's been in this meeting. Someone stands up and says, "Our product isn't doing well."
Right, and everyone just nods. But McInerny would say, stop. What does that actually mean?
It could mean absolutely anything.
Exactly. Does it mean sales are down? Production costs are up? Is the marketing campaign a disaster? Does the product itself break?
You can't fix it if you can't define it. You're just paralyzed by the vagueness.
Precisely. And for McInerny, this isn't just inefficient. It's a barrier to truth. You can't solve a problem you haven't clearly defined. You're just fighting a ghost.
So, step one for sanity is precision, which leads us to the real heavy machinery of the book.
The 4 first principles, the bedrock.
He calls these self-evident. He says you can't prove them because you need them to prove anything else. But honestly, when I first read them, they felt, well, obvious.
That's the trap. They sound obvious until you start noticing how often we violate them every single day.
Okay, walk us through them. What's the first one?
The principle of identity. A thing is what it is. An apple is an apple.
Not an orange.
Not an orange.
Okay, I'm with you so far. Who's arguing that an apple is an orange?
Well, in the physical world, nobody. But in the world of ideas, all the time. McInerny points out how we try to make facts fit our narratives. We say a failed policy was a success, or that a lie is an alternative fact.
We try to bend reality to what we want it to be.
Yes. And the principle of identity just says, stop. Look at the thing itself. Acknowledge what it is, not what you wish it was. It's about intellectual honesty.
Okay, what about number 2? The principle of the excluded middle.
This one makes people uncomfortable. It states, between being and non-being, there is no middle ground. A statement is either true or it is false.
The classic example is you can't be kind of pregnant.
Exactly. You either are or you aren't.
But hold on a second. Life feels so gray. Isn't this just a bit too binary? Where's the nuance?
That's the modern pushback, isn't it? We love the gray area because it's safe. But McInerny is talking about truth claims. If you say, the cat is on the mat, that statement is either true or false. The cat can't be sort of on the mat.
So when we hide in that middle ground,
We're not being nuanced, we're being sloppy. We're avoiding taking a stand on what's real.
okay, that makes more sense. What's the third principle?
The principle of sufficient reason. There's a reason for everything. Things don't just happen.
Cause and effect.
Yes, but it's more than that. It's a commitment to curiosity. It means when you see something, you assume there is an explanation, even if you don't know it yet. You don't just say, it's magic or it's random. You look for the cause.
It's the engine of science.
And of logical investigation.
And then the last one, the big one, the principle of non-contradiction.
This is the ultimate stress test. A thing cannot both be and not be in the same respect at the same time.
So I can't be sitting in this studio and also be scuba diving in the Caribbean right now?
Correct.
That seems obvious. But how does that apply to our beliefs?
This is where it gets really sharp. McInerny says if you hold two contradictory beliefs as true, your thinking is, and this is his phrase, necessarily false.
Not just a different perspective,
Yeah.
but actually broken.
Broken. If you believe all stealing is wrong, but you also believe it's okay for me to steal office supplies, you have a contradiction. You are being illogical. Period.
That's a really tough standard.
Yeah.
Our culture loves to say, well, that's your truth, this is my truth.
And McInerny is saying, no. There is just the truth, and it follows these rules. He argues that my truth is usually just code for my preference. But reality doesn't care about your preferences. If your beliefs contradict, one of them has to go.
That is the price of sanity.
It is.
So if these are the rules, how do we get better at following them? He talks about this idea of inoculation,
I love this analogy. It's brilliant. It's straight from medicine.
like a vaccine for your brain.
Exactly. To master logic, he says you have to study illogical thinking. You expose yourself to weakened forms of irrationality.
Weakened forms, like what?
Things like red herrings, straw man arguments, ad hominem attacks. You study them in a book where they can't actually hurt you. You see how the trick works.
So you learn to spot them.
You build that cognitive immune system. So when you see those tactics in the real world, in a political ad, a sales pitch, a family argument, you don't get infected. You recognize it instantly. Ah, that's a red herring, and it loses all its power over you.
It really is self-defense for your mind. Now, I want to shift gears a little. We promised to apply the Illyrian lens. Is this book giving us information, knowledge, understanding, or wisdom?
It's a great question, and it's a mix. The 4 first principles we discovered, that's knowledge. Established 2,000-year-old knowledge, McInerny is just transmitting it.
Okay, that's the baseline. What about understanding?
Understanding is connecting the dots. It's knowing why a rule matters. McInerny provides that by explaining why we make logical errors. He links them to things like laziness or emotion or narrow-mindedness. He's showing us the inner workings.
And what about opinion? Is there opinion in here?
There is. His claim that our specific modern culture is uniquely post-truth, that's a very informed opinion. It's a compelling one, I think, but it's not a proven fact, like the principle of non-contradiction.
And finally, wisdom. Can a technical book on logic really offer wisdom?
I think it aspires to, yes. It gets to wisdom by connecting logic to human flourishing. He's not just teaching you tricks to win debates. He's saying that thinking clearly is part of being a good, whole person. It's about aligning yourself with reality.
I want to pause on that idea of human flourishing.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get lost in the mechanics, the syllogisms, the premises, and forget this is supposed to be about living a better life.
It truly is. It's about reducing the friction between yourself and the world.
And speaking of that, of taking time to process these ideas, I want to mention something. While this kind of logic is critical, reflection is just as important. You need space.
For sure.
We use Mindful Moments, our YouTube channel offering AI book analysis, inspiring reflection and rational thought. It's a great way to balance the intense intellectual work we're doing with some of that necessary headspace.
That's a great point. You need both the sharp tool and the calm mind to use it well.
So let's get back to the critique. We've mapped the claims, we've looked for wisdom. Now I want to put the book itself on trial, using the golden rule.
The reciprocity test, does it treat the reader the way the author would want to be treated?
Exactly. Does McInerny invite you to critique him?
I think he does, absolutely. He's literally handing you the weapons you'd need to take his own arguments apart. He passes that test completely. He's not saying, believe me because I'm a professor. He's saying, believe this because it's rational, and here are the tools to check my work.
But there is a catch. You brought this up earlier. Intellectual justice.
This is the big one. The book is accessible, yes, but formal logic, requires a certain level of literacy and the ability to think abstractly.
So if logic is the key to sanity and defending yourself from manipulation, is it fair that only the educated really have easy access to it?
It's a massive ethical question, and if you think about who benefits from public irrationality, demagogues, predatory advertisers,
They would hate for people to read this book.
they would absolutely hate it. Their business model relies on people not understanding these principles. So the book is a tool for justice, but there's still that barrier to entry. We have to acknowledge that.
Okay, let's score it against the U.S. Constitution's preamble. How does it do on secure the blessings of liberty?
Very high. A 4 out of 5. Logic is the foundation of autonomous judgment. You can't be free if you can't think for yourself.
What about established justice?
Also a 4 out of 5. Logic is what exposes the fallacies used to rationalize injustice. It demands evidence. It's a shield against arbitrary power.
Promote the general welfare.
High marks there too. A society of clear thinkers would be more efficient, more productive. Sanity is a public good.
But you gave it a lower score on one of them, domestic tranquility.
I did, because waking people up to logic might actually increase conflict, at least at first.
Right. If you start pointing out every fallacy at the Thanksgiving dinner table, tranquility is the last thing you're going to get.
Exactly. Uncle Bob, that's an ad hominem attack. That conversation does not end well. Logic disrupts the peace of comfortable illusions. It's a necessary friction, but it's still friction.
Okay, we've praised the book a lot. Now let's get critical. Let's do a logical analysis of McInerny's own arguments. Where are the weak spots?
Well, there's a bit of a bootstrapping problem. It's circular. He's using logic to prove the importance of logic.
Using the tool to sell the tool.
He more or less admits it by calling the principles self-evident. But at the end of the day, you have to choose to accept reason. You can't prove logic is valuable to someone who fundamentally rejects it.
That's a real paradox, like trying to explain color to someone who won't open their eyes.
Then there's the is-ought gap, a classic problem in philosophy. McInerny is great at describing what logic is, but then he makes the leap to say we ought to be logical.
And why should we? Why not just be chaotic if it feels good?
Right. He assumes that logic serves goodness and truth, but he doesn't really prove that connection. You can use perfect logic to plan a bank robbery. Cold, calculating, and completely immoral.
So logic is a tool, but it's morally neutral. It doesn't have its own compass.
Exactly. And that points to the book's biggest limitation, its scope.
What's missing from the picture?
It's almost entirely focused on formal, propositional logic, A equals B. But life isn't like that. We have emotions, intuition, probabilities.
You mentioned Daniel Kahneman's work, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yes, and Jonathan Haidt, too. They show that humans are not Vulcans. We often feel first and then use logic later to justify that feeling. McInerny's model doesn't really account for that reality.
So it's missing emotional intelligence.
It is, largely. It treats logic as a separate skill, not as something that has to be integrated with empathy and intuition. You can be a logical genius and an emotional idiot. Cleverness isn't wisdom.
That is a critical distinction. Logic is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Okay, let's wrap this with a final look at the strengths and weaknesses.
For strengths, it's incredibly accessible. That's hard to do. It's defensive. It genuinely protects your mind. And its structure is perfect, building from the ground up.
And the weaknesses.
The ethical grounding is a little thin. It doesn't fully bridge being clever with being wise. It ignores cultural context. And as we said, it separates logic from emotion, which just isn't how people work.
So why does this book still matter so much? Sum it up for us.
Being logical matters because it is a cognitive immune system for the modern world. We are swimming in an ocean of manipulation. This book transforms logic from some dusty academic subject into a practical, everyday shield for your mind. It's about taking back control.
I like that, taking back control. So what are the 3 key insights we should walk away with?
Number 1, logic is self-defense. Understanding fallacies isn't about winning online arguments. It's about protecting your own mind from incoherent or deliberately misleading reasoning.
Number 2.
Clarity is non-negotiable. Remember that product isn't doing well line. Vague language makes clear thought impossible. Precision in your words leads to precision in your thinking.
And the final one.
The limits of logic. And this is so important. While logic is essential for sanity, it is not enough for wisdom. It absolutely must be balanced with moral virtue and emotional intelligence. Otherwise, it's just a weapon with no guidance system.
That's a powerful place to end. It's all about that balance.
It is.
If you want to keep exploring these kinds of ideas, please be sure to check out Mindful Moments and our podcasts. We're always trying to bring you tools to help navigate this world.
Absolutely.
So here's your call to action. Click the link on screen for the in-depth book analysis. Subscribe, share, purchase via the link, and most importantly, think critically. Don't take our word for any of this. Test it yourself.
Stay sane out there.
See you next time.